Namaskar. I am Dr. Tushar Tayal and I am consultant internal medicine and I'm heading the Department of Internal Medicine at CK Birla Hospital, Gurgaon. And my previous work experience has been with Ganga Hospital, Fortis and Pratiksha Hospital in Gurgaon. Today is National Dengue Day. Every year we see that after the onset of monsoons, there is a surge of mosquitoes, following which there is a surge in the number of dengue patients. Since last year, we have also been battling the COVID pandemic on both personal and professional fronts, and we are learning about the disease as the day progresses. Today, our topic of discussion is how COVID impacts or what are the implications of COVID on dengue and vice versa, and also some of the newer medicines or vaccines which may be under development for the management of dengue. With us today, we have three esteemed physicians who are pioneers in the field of medicine. First, we have with us Dr. Mohsin Wali, who is a senior consultant medicine at Sir Ganga Hospital and is a Padmashri awardee and has been physician to former three presidents. He's also a fellow of Royal College of Physicians and an honorary consultant to Armed Forces of India. He has numerous publications under his name, both Indian as well as international. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tushar. It's an honor for me to be part of North Delhi Physicians Forum and be here on World's Dengue Day. And it's a very important thing to have talk on dengue because we should not forget the smaller enemy. We are talking all over the world about the larger enemy, COVID virus, and this step brother of COVID virus is the dengue virus. So I'm thankful to you and very nice being here and great honor for me. And thank you for your team, including Khushbu. And I'm also grateful for conceptualization of this discussion by the Voice of Health and all the members of Voice of Health who have given this platform an opportunity to discuss one of the greatest killers in the world, whom we know quite less. So, Dr. Tushar, thank you very much. And
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Next with us, we have Dr. R.M. Chhabra, who is a senior consultant physician and who has an experience of more than 30 years. He is the recipient of Sundarlal Rupati Award and also has contributed to numerous publications, both Indian and international. He is also the governing member of North Delhi Physicians Forum. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tushar. First of all, I would like to thank you, VUHA, for giving us this opportunity. I am Dr. R.M. Chhabra and senior consultant physician. I was in the Fortis Hospital as well as the Suraj Hospital, Roni. But at present, I am not going to any hospital. At present, I am online senior consultant physician. I give the consultation and I am working and coordinating all the healthcare worker, government, NGO to fight against the COVID-19 in this era. So over to Tushar.
Thank you so much, sir. Honor to have you here. Next with us, we have Dr. Parinita Kaur. Dr. Parinita Kaur has done her DNB internal medicine from Bokaro, and she has an extremely great experience of more than 12 years in internal medicine. And she has been associated with various hospitals such as Artemis, Columbia, Russia, Mata Chand Devi. And presently, she is working as senior consultant with Aakash Hospital. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for inviting me here among all of the esteemed speakers and eminent physicians. And I'm lucky and obliged to be sharing the dais with all of you here. And thank you so much, Voice of Healthcare, for giving me an opportunity to speak on this subject. And as Wali sir rightly said, that among the COVID pandemic, we have actually forgotten a lot of other smaller enemies, especially the dengue, which has been troubling us year after year. So, with this, I think all of us will be having a fruitful discussion on how and what measures can we take to prevent the spread of dengue, and is it enough what we are doing right now? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So let us start with a discussion. I would first request Dr. Chhabra to start the discussion with a small presentation about dengue and the impact of dengue in the era of COVID.
Now my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
My screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It is visible.
No, Tushar. Okay. So, dear friends, before starting our topic, we want to tell you about the healthcare system, how to handle the infection. We academicians always talk about the how to prevent the infection, diagnose the infection, and management. But we are all looking, or we are less concerned about the other things. So the healthcare system is so down or the collapse nowadays. How we can take the advantage of the available resources? I will tell you some facts how we can improve this thing before starting our topic. So, dear friends,
Okay, sir.
this presentation is exclusively for the education and motivational purpose. There is no conflict of interest or any intention to hurt anyone in person, fraternity, government, media, association, or the organization. In fact, it is an observational and the evidence-based presentation. So, dear friends, the management of the disease was so easy and simple, and with the no or almost nil violence. Nowadays, so many violences are there in the healthcare system. When the apple and blackberry were only fruits, so, in the modern era, management of does not remain simple as it was in the past and led to a lot of violence because Apple and BlackBerry have become the devices and used in the digital era and with the various available options either online or the numerous pathies like the Jhada Puka, so many pathies are there, homeopathy, allopathy, so many, and for the treatment of the disease that it's so many problems. So, dear friends, nowadays this is the stormy times for the healthcare system. You see the one news in the morning, your mood gets spoiled in the morning. So it is very bad for the healthcare system. But dear friends, as per survey about the option for the patient, we have asked so many patients, what is your option for your treatment for the patient? Only answer, only one option was given. I want my patient treatment at the well-equipped and the high-tech hospital. But with everyone expect the advanced and the high-tech treatment, either free of the cost or the charitable basis, with the help of either the government or the neta or the trustee. So, dear friends, fact and the truth, it is not possible at all to deliver this charitable or the free of the cost treatment with this. Ultimately, it will lead to one dialogue only. What is the dialogue? Leads to the one dialogue, doctors lutere hai. Nothing else. This is a dialogue. So if the people fail to get the free of the cost and the charitable services, patient and their attendant do not get the medical services and the care at the free of the cost or the charitable services, what will be the consequences? You know, the consequences, they will assault the warriors. They will assault the person who comes in front of them, healthcare providers, in the anger and take the kanun and the law in the hands. They beat all the healthcare providers. So this is the fact of today. So this is the scenario of the today. Patient and the attendant, they assault the healthcare providers, including the doctors. So what is the need of the arts? Need of the arts, awareness about their wrong step. It is a wrong step. Aware them and ask them. Think twice before act. What are you doing, dear? If you assault your doctor or the healthcare providers, means you are harming yourself. If you kill your doctor or the healthcare provider, you will also kill yourself. So, dear friends, have you ever thought who are the sufferers of the violence? Only doctor, patient, and their attendant. No one, no politician, no bureaucrat, no one is affected except the doctor, patient, and their attendants. So, if there is a loss of the property, They either leave it on the patient, they will include it in their bill, that creates problem for the patient. Or they recover corporate hospital, all the hospital will recover from the professional to the doctors, that will create the problem for the doctors. So dear friends, think who are the responsible for these problems, either public, government, hospital, government, private, or the corporate hospital, or the medical fraternity due to the ethics, or the media and the judiciary law. It is questionable. You will tell yourself who is the responsible. So, dear friends, what are the probable reasons as of the follow as per observation? What is the observation? There is a lack of the proper awareness of the public about the diseases and their management, and lack of the coordination among the government, medical fraternity, Indian Medical Association, all the medical associations, and public and the doctors. There is a lack of the coordination and unseen fear and doubt. That is a big problem. And lack of the available resources. We don't have the resources. After there is no oxygen and all, there is no ECG machine. So many lack of the available resources. That's why there is a violence. So, dear friends, sometimes there is a imbalance between the law and ethics. The laws are there, but if we go according to the law, we cannot do because the available resources are not there. So, dear friends, how this can be improved? We can improve updating the knowledge from the public to the government and the doctors. All the we should update them time to time. So and enhance our coordination. That's why we can improve the healthcare system. So dear friends, this is a thought of everybody. Everybody say, कृपया यहाँ ज्ञान मत बांटिए, हम सब ज्ञानी हैं, हमको सब कुछ पता है. So this is a thought. Dear friends, in the Three Idiots film, there was a dialogue. आमिर खान कहता है कि जहां से भी नॉलेज है आप बटोर लीजिए. So we must update ourselves from any available sources where we can get the knowledge. We must gain it from that available sources. So dear friends, now I will tell about the something different between the COVID-19 and the dengue. Both diseases are there. As Dr. Wali rightly said, छोटी मछली छोटी बड़ी मछली को बाद में पूछता नहीं. Dengue is also disease that should be looked in. So the COVID-19, it is a virus, the SARS-CoV virus, and dengue is due to the dengue virus. The transmission of the COVID-19 person to person with the dengue, the mosquito-bite, the mosquito-borne disease, and prevention by the SMS means social distancing, mask, and the sanitization, frequent washing of the hand. In case of the dengue, prevention by checking the breeding of the mosquito, then we can reduce or prevent the dengue. And in the COVID-19, there is a flu-like symptom, but in the dengue, the major symptom is the fever. That is also known as the break-bone fever. So that treatment, the isolation, symptomatic, and the research-based treatment of the COVID till date, no definite treatment was found for the COVID-19. But the dengue, the rest and the fluid balance and the platelet infusion if required. This is the treatment of this. We will discuss with the time, with every panelist, we will discuss each and everything about the COVID and the dengue. So dear friends, how to manage the infection? We can manage the prevention. It comes for the public. Prevention by the public only. So diagnosis, treatment, and the treatment, that is the healthcare system. The diagnosis by the doctors and the treatment of the complication, that all comes to the doctor. The prevention by the public only. You have seen the viral video in which say कि हमने सारे celebration करते थे, हमारा क्या इसमें क्या we can prevent the dengue or as well as the COVID-19. So by the prevention, as you know, today the topic prevention is better than the cure. In everything, prevention must be there. Just like in this picture, man proposes his girlfriend with the full precaution. So anything can happen with the full precaution. He proposes to her, his girlfriend. So dear friends, what is the prevention of the COVID-19? I will do the something quickly, brief. Prevention from the contracting the COVID-19 infection, as well as social distancing 2 meters, mask simple close for the N90 mask for the healthcare providers, sanitizing frequent and massive washing, properly by 30 seconds, and avoid the 3C, that is the crowded, congested, and the closed places. And increase your immunity, balanced diet, exercise, proper sleep, and the mental peace. And vaccination, active immunization, as you see, the vaccination started in India in January 2021. So, dear friends, there is a reverse quotation in the COVID-19 era, probably first time in the history of the mankind. Divided we stand, united we fall. This is the reverse of the quotation. So in the COVID era, this quotation has been reversed. So dear friends, prevention of the dengue, stop the stagnation of the water to check the breeding of the mosquitoes, check of the water, the cooler, the plants, pots, etc. And the frequent changing of the water, and use the net and the repellent to avoid the mosquito bites, and full sleeve shirts and full pants and clothes to avoid the bite of the mosquito. So vaccination, we will discuss about the vaccination of the dengue later on. So what are the challenges due to the management of the disease at the level of the doctors? Self and the pre-treatment. The self-treatment by the patient is very, very bad for the patient. And one is the Google Baba advice, very, very bad. And Chhabra and the Gharilu Ilaj, that is a problematic for the doctor. Attendants advice after the doctor advice. If you take the advice from the doctor, the attendant will give the advice after the doctor. That is a big problem. And another big problem is the adherence and the compliance of the treatment. The patient doesn't adhere or the compliance treatment that will lead to the complication, and the doctor will be blamed. The doctor का treatment ठीक नहीं है. At the level of the patient, selection of the pathy. Patient is confused which pathy I have to opt. It is very big problem. Lack of the awareness about the disease, media influence nowadays. It is very, very dangerous for the patient. They are unable or they are confused to of the treatment, and the peer pressure. The peer pressure is very problematic in the treatment choice. And resources, because there is a lack of the resources nowadays. You're seeing there is no bed in the hospital. Patients are running here and there. There is no oxygen in the hospital. There is a lack of the resources, also a big problem for the patient. So other big problem for the medical fraternity, I will tell you. See in the management of COVID-19 pandemic graph. See this graph. The number of the webinars are increasing to increase the knowledge and as the corona cases. But gradually the knowledge of the doctors are increasing. But earning of everybody from the bottom to the top is decreasing day by day. From March 2020 till date, it is decreasing. So dear friends, bureaucrats and officials are missing from this management graph because they are not accountable at all. But they are managing the show with the zero knowledge of the corona. They all are managing the show, but the medical fraternity is keeping the mum due to the domination of the non-medicals. All the protocols and guidelines are led by the all non-medicals. That's a big problem. Though because the other the medical doctors are not consulted in these things. So today's healthcare system is just like a broken bridge and creates a lot of the problem in the management of the infection and disease. Just is a broken bridge. So see, dear friends, power of the working team. If we work with the team, power of the working team. See, is the government, healthcare provider, especially the doctors and the public. There are three. I have pictured this picture. So if we jointly work on the combined efforts, we can cross this bridge, broken bridge, because we have to work with the available resources. So dear friends, if we work with the combined efforts to deliver the best and excellent services to the people at large with the available resources, we can't help with the resources. So dear friends, I will tell you in the last of my presentation, important factor of the life, a big difference between the money and the time. Everybody knows always how much money we have, but we never know how much time we have, dear friends, and let us always value our time. Similarly, in the infection and the increase of immunity to fight against the infection, what is the difference? See, a big difference between the immunity or fight against the infection and unpredictable infection. Dear friends, we always know how much immunity or the power to fight against the infection we know, but we never know about the infection we contract. We don't know if we may have the contact infection tomorrow or the COVID infection. God knows what will happen. So dear friends, let us always our value of the immunity and the fight, the power or the force or the fighting against the infection we have to protect ourselves from the infection. One we must value of this power. So take a message. Only two persons are very happy in this world, dear friends. First is the man who work for the aims and the work of the life. What is your aim and the work of the life? So second, the child, he doesn't know about anything or the surrounding. That's why he is happy. Who are innocent, and let us bed to achieve the maximum immunity or the fight power to get to fight against the infection by any means. Let us be a child to enjoy what we have the resources in our hand, and we have to do. We have to serve to the people at large to give the best services and excellent services to the public at large. Thank you very much to all the attendees for patiently listening to you. And over to Dr. Tushar, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the mood of the talk. And I especially liked that particular mention of the word SMS, which is social distancing, mask, and sanitization. I'm going to use it for my patients henceforth. So thank you for that. And I think we should proceed for our question and answer sessions now. Uh, my first question would be for Dr. Kaur. Ma'am, what do you think is the impact of lockdown on dengue and its transmission?
Dr. Tushar, this is a very interesting question. So before coming to this webinar, for the last 1.5 years, we've been seeing this pandemic, and I think, and you all will agree to me that for some time we felt that rest of the disease have somehow vanished from this whole world, and for all this while until the first wave settled down to a bit, we all were seeing just COVID patients. I don't know where the rest of the diseases had vanished. Of course, after the first wave somehow diminished, we did see a lot of ignored cases, and we did come across a lot of infectious diseases, a lot of tuberculosis we saw, and disseminated tuberculosis at that, and lots of bad cases which are like really, really difficult to treat right now. So a stitch in time saves nine. The thing did not happen because of the COVID pandemic scare, and nobody was going to their physicians to seek for any other help. So the same thing happened with COVID, with dengue. In the last wave, we did see a lot of, not lot of, but a few cases of COVID and dengue co-infection. But thankfully, so they were not very severe cases. Now with the diligent testing, we could make out these cases also. But I think with the second wave, this the overwhelming numbers have kind of just made us focus only on the COVID. Now, how has the lockdown impacted? It can have a positive impact as well as a negative impact. Let us talk about the positive impact first. Now, if the contact rate with the dengue mosquito is reduced, for example, if the mosquitoes are breeding mostly in your workplace, so the exposure to the mosquitoes is reduced. So it all depends on where the mosquitoes are breeding. If they're breeding mostly in the public spaces, in the schools, in the workplaces, then the contact of the humans with those the vectors is reduced, and hence the number of cases of dengue can be reduced. Whereas if the mosquitoes are breeding basically around your home, and you are naturally coming in contact with the mosquitoes more, then obviously the number of cases may increase. How else can the lockdown impact the cases of dengue? Basically, with the health system overwhelmed with the COVID-related, management, and so many of the people, so many of the healthcare professionals have to be diverted to be taking the data for COVID and managing COVID. The surveillance, the recording, all has hampered. So there may be underreporting of the cases of dengue. That is one problem that we can have with the lockdowns. Secondly, the patients hesitate to go to the healthcare workers, hesitate to get any testing done. With the COVID also, we have seen a lot of resistance in patients going ahead and getting the tests done, even for COVID. So leave alone the blood tests, and we can't monitor the dengue unless we do blood tests. So it's important to test yourself. So with the lockdowns happening, less number of people are actually contacting their primary healthcare givers. That is one thing. Then we've already talked about the disruption of workforce. Most of the people are concentrated around the working of COVID related issues. Then the labs themselves are so overwhelmed with the requests for tests relating to COVID, as well as the COVID testing itself. So they are also a little delayed. There is a delay in getting tested themselves. So I think these are the things that can have an impact on the testing and on the diagnosis of dengue. Mostly it is, thankfully, I think in the last year also, we've had very mild cases of dengue. And since it has like an annual change every time, so hopefully we are seeing the less virulent strains of dengue this time. Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am. So in my experience also, ma'am, last year around the number of cases of dengue and the severity of dengue was lesser than what it was the year before. Whether it was the impact of lockdown or it was underreporting, it is still to be seen. Let us see how it is going to happen this year, and hopefully so, dengue is going to be mild this year also.
Yeah.
My next question here would be for Dr. Chhabra. Sir, is there a similarity in the symptoms of dengue and COVID-19? And how does that affect the treatment of either of the two?
Dr. Tushar, if we talk about the symptoms of the two virus disease, one is the COVID-19 and the dengue, the main thing is fever. Fever in both cases are the high grade fever or the low grade fever. But in the body aches and all that, but in the dengue, definitely there is a backache because it is also known as the breakbone fever. So fever is more prominent in the dengue rather than the COVID-19. In the COVID-19, the symptoms are just like the dry cough is very, very important. Dry cough and sore throat and itching in the throat. These are the symptoms, flu-like symptoms in the COVID-19. In the COVID-19. And another symptom in the COVID-19, loss of the smell and the taste. If it is a characteristic, if you are having the loss of the smell and the taste, definitely the case of the COVID-19. This is a similarity not there only fever and the backache and the body ache, weakness, malaise, so many symptoms are there, they are common. But the loss of the smell and the taste, that is a characteristic of the COVID-19, not of the dengue.
So how do you think that the treatment is going to get affected? I mean, how does it affect the treatment for COVID and dengue? Say a person does present with COVID as well as dengue. So how will the treatment get affected in that?
COVID patient is infected by the person to person. They have widespread and speedily spreading infection. It comes from the droplet infection. Nowadays we say it is a droplet infection, but the airborne disease because once the virus comes in the air, that will sustain the air for some time. After that, it will settle because it is a surface virus. After some time, it will settle on the either surface, any surface, either table, chair, on any surface, or even the linen. So many things are there. It will be settled on the surface, but it will be transmitted by if you are infected, touching touching the infected surface. Then if you touch your nose, eyes and the mouth, then you will be infected by the COVID-19 virus. But in case of the dengue, there must be bite. Bite is there or the mosquito bite. Sometimes it is itching or the redness or any rash. That is a pakka bite of the dengue mosquito. That is the transmission of the dengue virus in the body.
Certainly, sir. Certainly.
So, in case of for the healthcare worker, because it is a definitely airborne generated virus, all in the ICU, if you are doing the endotracheal intubation, then definitely there is a virus load is there. then you are infected, then you should wear the double mask or the N90 mask must be worn by healthcare worker.
Right. So what I think is that in the treatment, because dengue we do excessive hydration, whereas in patients of COVID we have to be very selective with the amount of fluid that we give the patient. Otherwise, the patient may land into ARDS. I think if a patient of COVID plus dengue lands up, so we have to be very careful how we hydrate the patient, because we either can worsen the patient's condition. That is what I think. What is your opinion about that, Dr. Wali?
Yeah, you are absolutely right while you say this, because some antibiotics we are using these days for COVID pneumonia, a lot of patients are calling, Dr. Chhabra must be receiving such calls, that platelets have gone down. Could it be dengue? So I first checked with them what is their antibiotic status and then ask for the other symptoms, as very aptly mentioned by Dr. Chhabra. And this is the reason we are carefully watching, and I am advising certain ICUs to use their judgment whether they have to dehydrate the patient by giving little diuretic, because diuretics are not widely used in this epidemic, and I have saved many patients by dehydrating them, and this is very important. And hydrating a patient in dengue fever is equally important, because
Absolutely.
basically it's a capillary disease, slightly similar to what we have in this COVID, and capillaries, through them we lose lot of significant amount of high protein rich fluid to the periphery, and then to maintain not the platelets but to maintain hematocrit. Lots of
Yes,
patients
sir.
during dengue epidemic talk about, sir, platelet 40,000 rega.
Right.
We just tell them 40,000 is a good count, 70,000 is a good count, and they
Absolutely
should
right.
not panic. Nobody talks of blood pressure. No doctor monitors the blood pressure, PCV, which is very important, hematocrit, very important, and that is the sheet anchor of saving a life. And that we have
Absolutely,
been
sir.
taught by our seniors, that how to
Absolutely,
save
sir.
lives in these patients. And there are reasons that dengue is coming back, and it's a resurgence. It is called resurgence. It's a cyclic resurgence, and that is very important to study the cycle. And there are reasons why our, I have listed some of, because I was given a question to answer. I will cover that here by sharing this screen. And if you allow me the sharing option,
Absolutely, sir.
yeah, I have this graph, first graph, which answers this question: why the methods which are taken to reduce dengue fail. They fail. This graph is just an example. The cases
Yes, sir.
are going up, and these are the measures we take for vector control methods. And beyond all these measures, we have to see the will. It could be a political will mostly, because other reasons are growing resistance to insecticides, restricted use due to the environmental constraints. We have discarded some larvicides and insecticides, and new mosquito population resurgences. And I'll give you one example, very interesting example, after we have read this. And these are some pharmacological measures. You can read in the meantime. And first time it was seen when they were making Panama Canal. So Panama Canal, out of 40,000 workers, nearly 22,000 workers got infected with dengue fever. And they thought how to stop this dengue fever. And they placed the beds, I mean the cots, into the water. And when they placed the cot in the water, more mosquitoes started growing in that water. And this was a peculiar experiment. And such things we also do in our homes. That is one reason that the measures which we are taught repeatedly, they fail. You must be hearing in the VIP bungalows, the dengue larva was identified many times, and it becomes a headline news. In our homes also, we don't stop keeping flower vases and wearing protective clothing. Then they started distributing mosquito nets treated with insecticide. So all these measures are very important. Then above every house roof or in the stores, there are places where the mosquitoes can breed. So all this happening behind the scene keeps this virus alive, and this virus is very clever. It is also mutating, its structure is changing, and this was is one of the hindrances to produce an adequate vaccine. Also, we will cover that later. But what I'm trying to say that we never understand the gravity of situation and forget. And when I was in Rashtrapati Bhavan, I suffered dengue. I tell you very important thing. Under I had 9 telephones, various hotlines and extensions from Army Hospital, Rashtrapati Bhavan, and so on. 9 telephones. There are some secret numbers. So there was a huge coil of wires, and I was bitten, and I was bitten at my feet, and I had dengue, and was identified in the third time in the blood test. Similarly, cabinet secretary, one of the cabinet secretaries, same way his table was crowded. Under the table, there was a lot of crowd of wires. So we miss sometimes. I'm telling this thing because sometimes we miss the occasion where we have lots and lots of such things where the mosquito can breed. And last year, I remember the Delhi government started sending its representatives to Australia to bring male mosquitoes lot that is treated with Wolbachia, and that also failed because you can't unless you maintain your personal hygiene and distancing from mosquito. Here, distancing from mosquito is important. You cannot save yourself from this, and sometimes it can be disastrous. First time when I was in RML hospital, the episode came, and it was mostly hemorrhagic fever, and lots of lives were lost. So this was a blessing in disguise that after that such a dangerous episodes or such a dangerous spread of dengue did not take place, in which we had more of hemorrhagic fever to deal. So the basic thing which I have covered here is that we have to be very careful in maintaining hygiene, and especially after the rains. A rainy season is going to start in some states. Monsoon has been announced. So thank you for giving me time, and I could say some salient points. And we have to really care for our children. Children never know when the mosquito is biting them. So children protection by adequate net, mosquito net, and use of safe repellents for children. I have innovated an idea in the cot of child. Don't apply any mosquito repellent on the face of child or legs. Just apply on the cot. So by the smell from the cot, the mosquito will not bite. So this worked.
Good idea.
So these are something, some new things I wanted to introduce to you, and I'm very happy that I give compliment to Dr. Naveen Nishal for organizing this. And Dr. Chhabra has almost covered everything, and very enlightening and very much. You mean educative talk, and sometimes we forget the basics. So this basic should be remembered. Every patient of the
Thank
dengue, blood pressure should be checked, and hematocrit should be checked in the management.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, sir. Thank
One
you.
or two thing I want to add this is because all the breeding of the mosquito are on the clean water, not on the dirty water. In the dengue fever, or sometimes most of the time the dengue mosquito bites in the daytime only.
Daytime,
And
clean water,
it will
and
not
female.
bite.
It's
Yeah,
the female
the
there which is
female, female,
offensive.
female is all. I can't say anything about the female. And third thing is the mosquito cannot fly above the knee height.
Yeah,
Remember, and flight range of the dengue mosquito is around about half
2 meters,
kilometer. It will not go
200.
above the half kilometer. In one day, that can go to the half kilometer. So the half kilo, the radius should be fumigated and all the things. The mosquito, that mosquito can fly up to the half kilometer. The three important things are there for the dengue mosquito.
Absolutely. So prevention is important, sir. Whether it is COVID or dengue,
Yeah.
Yeah.
prevention is of
Nay,
utmost
Tushar,
importance. That is what.
and very peculiar about this female mosquito is that she has to
In
feed
case,
4 or 5 different
in case of the
customers.
malaria, in case of
Yes,
malaria, that is also female mosquito.
yes. And this female Egypti species of Aedes is this. She feeds 4 to 5 hosts just to produce the ovulation, and that's why these male mosquitoes were produced experimentally, and in US they were used also, circulated rather.
Yes, yes, sir. Let's see, sir. Let's see what further mechanisms of prevention come. Let's see. So my next question is for Dr. Chhabra.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's a widespread fear of dengue transmission, and I think we've already covered about the poor practices of dengue prevention. That has already been covered by Dr. Wali and Dr. Chhabra. That we let the water collect in our houses, the clean water. We do not maintain a sanitation. So I think this topic is more or less covered. Would you want to add something to that, Dr. Parinita?
Yeah, so I think basically we just need to remember, as Dr. Chhabra just said, that the mosquito is very particular about its own place. So it generally does not venture very far. So if we take care of the breeding sites, if we have adequate vector control measures, and we make sure that we don't let the water collect in in and around our households. It's a very easy and effective way of controlling the dengue virus from spreading. So if we just learn this much, I think we can just do away with the dengue.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. My next question is for Dr. Wali. Sir, are there any antiviral drugs which are available for dengue?
Sir, you are on mute.
I was amazed when I started seeing how much research in this direction has been made. I would again give you an request for sharing this.
Absolutely, sir.
I have 1 or 2 slides to show, and we were trying to study the mechanism of uh, coronavirus, and I found certain similarities. Uh, this slide shows this. If we understand this, we would understand how the drug research in this direction is being made. It same way it has a receptor binding to the cell, and its virus it has a clarithin mediated endocytosis. Same way the endocytosis takes place in COVID. Then it has a third stage of fusion, and then it replicates, and then it thrives on the Golgi bodies, and then it splits them and takes a cleavage, and cleavage is then it breeds. So this is one reason why we have to know these mechanisms, and then release of progeny of the virons. So virons are produced in the same mechanism almost as in the COVID virus. So dengue virus infection starts from binding of the virus to the host cells. Then it goes inside, that is called endocytosis. Then low pH in the endosome triggers the membrane fusion reaction, as you saw here. And after the membrane fusion and nucleocapsid uncoating, the virus genome is translated into polyproteins. And these steps are very similar to what is happening in this coronavirus. That's why I found interesting slide. From the 200 human viruses that have been identified till date, 9 can be treated by licensed antiviral compounds. So our list of medicines is too long, and lots of studies have been done. And some medicines we know for treating other conditions. One of them is ribavirin, and there are more other medicines named and unnamed. And it was very interesting to find ivermectin's role as protease inhibitor, and also I also found doxycycline. We have been using doxycycline for malaria, and these are some disatinib-like salts. There are some research compounds like NS4A and lycorin, and we'll talk about vaccine later. So before that, I would like to say that there are a number of medications which we are used. The best medication is colloid and crystalloid solution, and those are very important. There are other medications also which have been found, and they have been used from time to time. But it is very difficult to found this, in most of the research which has been done in this direction is directed for finding a new antiviral drug, and some drugs have been named. So this is all we have about the medication, and it's difficult to treat a dengue patient once a complication takes place. Then I mentioned about the steroids at appropriate time is also steroids are useful. We have used steroids in our wards, and they are the one which we can use at appropriate time at a very appropriate dose. And then uh, most of the time it's the most important answer to this question is you have to carefully watch the patient, and we have to monitor the patient. Watching and monitoring is the best part of treatment. So I would emphasize that a careful watch and appropriate treatment, keeping the patient hydrated, as you pointed out very importantly, is the sheet anchor of treatment.
I totally agree. So hydration is the key of management of dengue. Rest everything is secondary. Platelet is secondary.
No,
Everything is
even
secondary.
WHO has given in its, I've been reading that about last night, that the appropriate selection of crystalloid followed by colloid. And this is the very important thing. We can't give a normal saline to all the patients. So, but
Absolutely,
if
sir.
we have nothing, we have to hydrate the patient.
Absolutely, sir. So you were also mentioning about the vaccine which is being developed for dengue. Any views on that? What is the latest in the vaccine for
Well,
dengue?
yes, two vaccine actually have been are being tried. Uh, I will have to go back sharing. Allow me.
Yes, certainly.
Vaccines is a very important and exciting idea, and because the marketing of vaccine is very important. This is one of the popular thing which we have been hearing from a long time. Dengue vaccine, Denvac or Denvexia. This is the first dengue vaccine to be licensed. It was first licensed in Mexico in December 2015 for the use in the individual 9 to 45 years, but nothing in the age below that. And in the endemic areas licensed in 20 countries. And this is a recombinant tetravalent dengue vaccine. This we have to know. Tetravalent is more important and developed by Sanofi. After that, 5 additional dengue vaccine candidates are in the clinical development. Because these viruses is spread to people through the bites of infected mosquitoes, it is very difficult to know when this infection taking place. And good dengue vaccine for nearly 20 years, the work was being done in the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in the John Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. And somehow it is not freely available to be given, and sometimes it has been tried. I would mention here definitely that clinical trials from the 2 to 16 years old, including children, because they were dying in great number. So we can't say that it's available freely, and as the dengue virus changes, we have to know the strain, number one. Number two, protection failure is also one of the things which is there, uh, because antibodies which this produces can vanish or cannot be adequately produced. This is a technical side. Another company which has tried is Japanese company Takeda in January 2018. This is the latest, and phase 3 trials have been completed. And as far as you are asking, we have not used dengue vaccine actually. Then V3 and 4 expressed on the backbone as a backbone of the then V2 genome of these 4 viruses. Only one is successful vaccine candidate, that is then V216881. So these are the fine details of what we had. So we have to really wait for these vaccines being available in the commercial way, and we can get the vaccine soon. So these are the things which are in the pipeline. And
Yes, sir.
sometimes we say because RNA virus, this is a statement given by a very renowned virologist of United States while they were talking about research about vaccine in COVID, and I was reading it 3-4 days back. It's very difficult to make vaccine against RNA virus. This is a
Yes.
True,
technical
sir.
problem, and it's we have to wait for vaccine when it will be available, like influenza vaccine and so on. So it's difficult job, and the cost we
Dr.
don't know yet. Yes,
Dr. Wali,
yes,
cutoff age the 45. We cannot give the dengue vaccine in the after the 45.
yes.
Uh,
That's
the
another problem.
age limit is 5 to 45. Do you think is it available in the India dengue vaccine?
I have not used, sir. I've told that I have heard a lot about it. We have presented
Even
some papers.
there is a problem in the Sanofi in the clinical trial. If they have given to the patient for the active disease over there, that's why they have stopped. I think.
Yes, and there were the sample size which they have researched in the
Yes,
southeastern country was
definitely.
a small 300 patients. And you see, this the smallest thing which we can do is use of mosquito net. That is the biggest vaccine. As I tell
Yes.
to the people of COVID, the biggest vaccine is mask. Mask
Yeah.
is the biggest vaccine, and there is so much. You see, I can't say that here. We can't see the immunity growing in our body,
One
nor we
question
can.
to you, Dr. Bhai Ali.
Sir.
Do you think the dengue is the cyclism after 5 years, 6 years, dengue finish after 10 years, 15 years, again come back?
Sir, they have
Is it cyclic?
studied. I have told just now it's a cyclic
Because
disease.
every
It
year it is the number of
comes
the
back.
cases are decreasing.
Yes, you are right, sir. We were discussing many times that it is a cyclic disease. So
Yes.
some amount of the residue of the eggs remains. They are fetched, and this is the cycle we know. And they come. This is also called resurgence, as you have rightly pointed out, sir. So it is a resurgence of malaria, resurgence in dengue, and we sometimes can't sterilize our lots. You see, a lot of people live in villages, and sanitation is the biggest hurdle. As the question was, what are the failures? So sanitation is the biggest hurdle.
Yes,
We
definitely.
have a premature rains now, premature monsoons, and we love our junk. We never throw the junk. This is a mosquito which hides itself in the junk, and when the rain comes back next year, it blooms again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is the biggest disadvantage, sir, and it's very difficult to eradicate.
So another peculiar
Yeah,
thing
I
I
think
read about the
another, yeah, sorry. So I think another problem with our vaccine is also that it can only be given to patients who've had dengue before. So I think that also limits the use of vaccine to a large extent because to first of all you need to check for seropositivity of the patient, and if he has had a, past episode of dengue, only then you can give. Otherwise, you can just risk the patient. The patient is at risk of developing a severe dengue.
Yes, they
So
have developed
that
a new
is
antibody to test,
yeah,
and then after that they recommend.
yeah.
Dr.
particularly
Valli, it
said
is a
that
there are four serotypes of the dengue. The
Yes, sir.
vaccine is against only one or the
Two.
all the four.
The one which
all
was
four, sir.
successfully used, I have read the type 2. It is
Type 2.
against type 2.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is another difficulty to developing
Yeah.
vaccine. They are trying,
It
the
is a
big
big
people are
problem
trying.
we are
I
facing in the
have,
COVID-19.
yes,
The
yes,
same problem because it is RNA
exactly.
virus, both are the RNA virus.
Yes,
COVID as well as the dengue, both are the RNA virus. It is very difficult to develop the vaccine against the RNA virus.
exactly,
You
sir.
are rightly said. RNA virus is very difficult to
With
prepare the
permission of Dr. Chhabra, I would here mention that due to this reason, they are trying to develop a universal vaccine for RNA virus, and research are going on. And they are trying to take multiple samples, this spike
Okay.
protein of multiple COVID viruses, mix them up, and take a portion of it, and then a vaccine from that. And this will be very cheap, and the same amount of same type of vaccine we have against pertussis.
You mean
Pertussis.
the cocktail era is about to come?
Yes.
Cocktail era.
Yeah, they are
Cocktail era.
saying this
They
vaccine
mix all the
giants.
vaccine.
Yes, sir. Vaccine giants would never allow this to come in the market
Yeah,
because it would be very cheap and very easy to transport, very easy to store, and it would be like they say $1. And
yeah,
this is very very difficult to come out because of its economic reasons. And you know, research is already being there. They have brought E. coli virus, sir, from
mm,
Japan, and they have fixed it like a decorated donut. The
mhm,
antigen, this antigen which I was talking, all the strains together and combined. Very interesting, sir. And
yeah.
they have compared it like a decorated donut. Sometimes we have a donut with lot of decorations. So after that, this virus is not toxic at all. It
Oops.
goes like yeah, E. coli. We have had all of us have infections of E. coli. So E. coli with this spike protein mixture, and that goes and acts like a vaccine. And this is a very novel theory they have got. And two of the Japan and two of the American Californian labs are working on it, sir. And this is called
Very,
universal vaccine.
very, very interesting, sir. Hopefully, it comes out soon. Let's hope so. And sir, another thing that I've noticed in the past couple of years is that the number of malaria cases, especially in the urban areas, have gone down significantly with the emergence of dengue. I have hardly seen any malaria patients in the past couple of years. What is your experience been like with malaria?
Malaria is definitely decreasing, and I think we have acquired some immunity against it. That is my explanation. There can be no other explanation because mosquitoes are not decreasing.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Dr.
Sir,
But we
Tushar,
have some interesting. Sorry, sir. Please.
बताइए बताइए.
No, no. So
Lady first.
recently, I recently had a chance to see a couple of lab results from Eastern India, and the interesting fact that I could see was that the person was COVID positive, the person's malaria virus was positive, the Vidal was positive. So,
typhoid was
there is
positive.
a lot of cocktail going on in the peripheries and especially in the eastern part of India. So I think the labs have a kit where they just declare everybody as malaria. I had a chance to work in Bokaro, and as a routine, we would give anti-malarials to everybody who would come with, a fever. So since
Okay.
in the endemic regions, we used to give an anti-malarial to everybody. I think all of us have practiced that at some point of time. But the reports also, somehow they just depict positivity in typhoid, malaria, as well as COVID. So I don't know how much of that is to
Correct and
believe,
accurate.
but
Yeah,
not over here in Delhi. No, we don't see malaria so much.
yeah, I agree.
But in case of
And
dengue in the urban area, because the more it comes the AC and the plants inside the room, that is a big problem for the dengue mosquitoes. In the urban area, they keep the plants inside, the plant
Agreed,
pots
sir.
and the AC. Both are the
Yes, sir.
culprit for the dengue
I
fever
agree, sir. Totally
in the
agree.
urban area.
Certainly. Yes, sir. Great, sir. So my next question is for Dr. Parinita. Ma'am, nowadays in COVID, a lot of vitamin C, injectable vitamin C, oral vitamin C is being used. Do you think that it has a role in treatment of dengue or either in the treatment of COVID? What is your opinion on that?
So yes, so right now these days we are using a lot of antioxidants. So if we carefully look at the way we are treating COVID, we are actually giving vitamin A, C, D, zinc. So antivirals, ivermectin, antiparasitics, so antibiotics, doxycycline. So basically we are using a cocktail to treat COVID. Whereas I think the most important thing here itself also is good nutrition and hydration, for especially for the patients who are in home isolation. And as that rightly pointed out by Dr. Wali and Dr. Chhabra, that in hospital you have to be very careful with the severe, moderate, and severe COVID cases. You have to be very careful about the fluid overload. And the best way to judge that is with the PCV or the hematocrit and the IVC status. So in ICUs, we have a habit of checking the IVC status in Pirivanakawa status with the help of a small ultrasound probe to just see the IVC collapsibility. That's a very good marker to see if the patient has needs diuretics or just needs more fluids. Now, coming to vitamin C, it has some very good antioxidant roles, and there have been studies in dengue where a lot of eminent physicians have done studies, and there have been three observations that they have found out. So this study was done by Ramanathan and Ramamohan et al. So they found that of they had obviously they had randomized patients to whom they gave vitamin C either oral or IV, and to those who were not receiving any vitamin C. So they did find out that there was an average increase in platelets, and it was greater in patients who received vitamin C. The second observation was that there was a shorter hospitalization period in at least 39% of patients who did receive vitamin C. Also, in the second study that they did, they found that on day 7, there was a greater increase in the WBC count. So, in dengue, we do see a leukopenia happening. And when we observed on day 7, there was a greater increase in WBC count when the patients did receive vitamin C. They also observed any change in hemoglobin, but they did not find any change with the administration of vitamin C whatsoever. Whereas COVID is concerned, we are giving high doses of vitamin C, especially in patients who are pretty sick and who are in ARDS. And the logic behind it is that there is oxidative stress from severe COVID and ARDS, and it does generate free radicals and cytokines, which leads to cellular malfunction and organ damage. Hence, high doses of vitamin C's are being used as antioxidants, but there are no randomized trials so far to advocate whether this is going to be useful or not. So I think in future, with further trials happening, we may be better equipped to answer this question. But since dengue has been there for quite some time, so role of vitamin C has been studied to some extent, whereas in COVID, so far it is more or less arbitrary, just knowing the fact that vitamin C does offer antioxidant properties, and that is why we are basically using it in either as oral or as IV high doses, especially in sick ICU requiring patients.
Absolutely. And for that matter, I believe that that concept of having papite ke patte ka pani and giloy ka pani, what that does that contain? Basically, it contains antioxidants. So maybe that is something which probably might be helping in settling down the disease, not particularly increasing the platelet, but maybe just giving that antioxidant action. So I say on my own do not
Good.
deny patients ki mat lo. आपको पीना है तो पी लो. You have your kiwis, you have your papite ka pani. It might benefit you.
Well, I
The only
did
thing is
resist it a
I
lot.
did.
I resist it initially a lot. But now, with everybody wanting to have Gilo, I am like, okay, just go ahead and have it.
go ahead and have it. Might as well.
Yeah.
Great.
Glad that you take this point. In those days when the dengue was prevalent, that goat milk used to sell 400
Oh, yeah.
rupees a kg.
It still does.
The
And
1000.
people used to gift, yeah, people
Yes.
used to gift goat's milk and telling the other people that you will not have dengue if you use this. So I'm sending you the goat's milk. It was exchanged as gift, and people come with lots of funny things and forget to take their blood pressure. This is always happening. If a lady put lemon in the nose, it was a WhatsApp university's suggestion for COVID, and she died. So this is what happens in India. You see, so we have to be very, very careful, and I can't describe. You see, the worry about platelets, everybody knows, but other
Nobody
things.
worries about
Dr. Wali,
hematocrit
you
and
have
blood
the
pressure.
more numerous remedies for the treatment of the COVID-19 rather than the number of the cases.
Yes.
Humanity has so many remedies. Jada,
Yes.
phoka, koi tel de raha hai, koi kuch de raha hai. So many things are there. A lot of remedies. घरेलू नुस्खे नुस्खे.
Great, sir. So my next question would be for Dr. Chhabra. That what is the mainstay of dengue treatment? We more or less discussed it. And do you think that there's any difference in the management of dengue and COVID?
Main difference I've already said, hydration and rest is very, very important in the dengue. Another thing I would like to say, the dengue fever patient must take the paracetamol only and said should be avoided. And the steroid, so many doctors are given in the periphery, they are giving the steroid and NSAID should be avoided in the dengue fever. Number two, another is if there is a platelet, every time you will receive a call, डॉक्टर साहब प्लेटलेट उसकी ऊपर हो गई, कितनी प्लेटें हैं, कितनी जन है. One, we must make the understand all the tenant as the patient. We are not treating the platelet. We are treating the dengue fever. If it is less than 20, then we will give the infuse the platelet. If it is less than 50, then we will admit the patient. If it is there is a symptom or the any bleeding with the 50,000, then we have to admit the patient. We have to infuse the platelet. So we are not treating the platelet number, but we are treating the dengue fever. Okay, if we must keep an watch for the dengue hemorrhagic fever as well as the dengue shock syndrome. If there is any symptom or there is any complication like the dengue hemorrhagic fever or any hemorrhage in the body or any shock is there, BP is down, then you must admit the patient to the ICU and treat accordingly this complication. These are the things to be kept in the mind while treating the dengue fever.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for the information, sir. My next question would be for Dr. Parinita and Dr. Wali. At what levels do we transfuse platelets in a patient of dengue fever? What is your, where do you, sir, draw the line? That below this you will transfuse, and ma'am, for you too, and where you will not? First, Dr. Parinita, would you
Parinita,
start?
you tell.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
very poor in mathematics. I usually assess my patients clinically, but let
Yes,
kindly tell.
You are
And I
totally
will
right,
try.
and I am with you. So
Dr.
whenever,
Parinita usually give to the answer to the patients. That's why you
yeah.
both matter.
So
If you
so
don't
my
give
answer to
platelets
my
to a
patients is
person,
that leave.
he will go away.
Please, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I was telling if in wards you deny giving platelets, when the patient
Yes.
says so, he'll go away. This is
Yes.
medical
Yes.
experience.
That is a
Yeah.
fear to
So
meeting the patient.
yeah. So
Yes.
actually, I think in the last few years, the scenario has definitely improved because initially, when we used to the moment the platelets used to come down even below 50,000, there would be a rush and there would be a first of all, the relatives have this query that even after coming to the hospital, why are the platelets falling? So it is not the hospitalization that is going to increase the platelets. So first of all, they have to understand that. To have to make them understand that it is not the hospitalization, and despite all measures, why are the platelets falling down? In the first visit itself, the patient has to be reassured, and the attendants, most importantly, have to be reassured that the platelets will fall and they will continue to fall for the next few days. And only after the 10th or 11th day, they are going to start increasing. So let us not
absolutely, ma'am.
worry about the platelets, leave the worry to us. You just have to know that you have to have the same blood group attendants arranged. If we ask you to arrange for a platelets only, then go and rush and arrange the platelets. So the way to go forward is that if there is an active bleeding, then whatever platelet count, we have to infuse the platelets.
Yes, brothers.
But if the platelets are stable and are not falling below 10, so below 10 is what we generally keep. There is a panic when it starts falling fast. So generally we start preparing the patient's companions at 20,000, but there is no urgency even if the platelets start coming down to 10,000. So 10,000 is the threshold that we keep, but we start preparing the patient's companions from 20,000 itself because it takes time to arrange and just to avoid that panic. That is where we start. Plus, if there is a minor bleed, like a small gum bleed, just a small, trace of blood, hematuria, then we just wait if the platelets are stable. And but if there is an occult bleeding, if there is a fall in hemoglobin, if there is a occult bleeding which is evident by the reports, the blood reports, or evident bleeding, as you can see, either hematuria or a PR bleed or a severe hematemesis or hemoptysis, or if we are suspecting an intracranial bleed, then yes, of course we have to transfuse the platelets in time. So single donor platelets are the best suited, but if it is taking time to arrange for the single donor platelets, then if you have the random donor platelets available, then we start transfusing the random donor platelets till the time the patient's attendants arrange for a single donor platelet. A good idea is to check the patient's companions for the availability of platelets. So sometimes the donors are rejected, so it is a good practice to screen the donors in advance and bleed them only when it is required. So this is one practice that we follow in our hospital.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely.
One
Dr.
thing I would like
Parinita?
to add, Tushar,
Yes, sir.
please bear with me. Sorry for interruption.
Absolutely, sir. Not at
You
all, sir.
know, if a young girl or a lady is bleeding, then it's high time to transfuse the patient, even if the platelet count is 20 to 30, to stop the bleeding. The practical problem which I as a doctor have faced throughout treating these cases is a patient walks in your chamber with 5 reports done in 3 days. 5 reports done in 3 days, and all 5 have a different value. Now, which is the right platelet count? You see, in our days, we were using by counting the platelet. Now they have automated instruments
Absolutely,
which
sir.
count it,
Yes.
and they give different reading. My observation to this solution, solving this problem was, go to a lab where there is no rush. In the huge rush of samples during the dengue days,
That
what
is,
they do, they keep the sample for 4 hours, 5 hours, give the sample 10 o'clock, report available 7:30. So when you store the blood in the lab in the this chemical vial, it eats up platelets, and the
yeah,
platelet count goes down. So always match the platelet count with the clinical
very,
symptom
very, yes.
of the patient, and do that blood pressure cuff test, capillary test,
Community
assess
test.
capillary test, assess the situation. Most important to look at this, how toxic is the patient? How toxic is the
Absolutely, sir.
patient? I was avoiding telling numbers because 20 is the count at which patient's attendant will not get you away. So you have to tell them, yes, you arrange the platelets, make them busy in getting donor, and then you relax, wash the platelets again. I have seen, sir, I am mentioning here, sir, with proud at Gangaram emergency, a relative of mine who was flown from the doctor thinking that she will die on the way, with full confidence she will not reach alive to Gangaram hospital. Of course, she was not a patient of dengue, she was a patient of ITP. Count was 1000. Believe it or not, we made arrangements for her to survive even in the emergency bed number 4 of Gangaram hospital, and later on she was properly managed, she is alive, she's on medication for ITP. And this I am mentioning here for everybody, that I am a witness, having seen more than 2 such cases where the count was only 1000. Believe me, please believe me.
Yes,
And
sir.
it was correct. It was correct. In ITP case, it was 200%
It
correct.
can.
In another patient, it was 100% correct. So please do not ghabrao, do not get upset, do not lose your confidence as a doctor that what to do, I can't treat this patient, what to do. Many times we get anxious. Sometimes we see very low oxygen saturation and we get anxious, but we forget. I will tell you, when I used to go with presidents at Leh and Ladakh, I used to see my saturation. Those days, this saturation meter was costing 5 to 6,000, and I used to have one, and it was 80, 84, 83. Before going into pulmonary edema, many patients have very low oxygen saturation, and they are walking in the Leh and Ladakh. So please don't get upset when you see very low dipping concentration of oxygen in these COVID patients. and also in the dengue patient. I would not hesitate to tell. We never give such examples of our personal experience because Dr. Saab has said it is an evidence-based presentation. But I will mention it to raise the confidence of my colleagues that I had a patient who was obese those days in the first outbreak of the COVID, and he one day was coming and getting treatment in my clinic without telling me. In the crowd of such patients, he went away to the toilet at the ground floor, sitting from the basement without mentioning. He came back with 55 saturation, and we gave, of course, oxygen, and he went walking. So please do not get upset when you suddenly find anybody having low saturation. People call me midnight that saturation has dropped to 84, 85, 86. Everybody I am observing that saturation is dropping during night. So this is to boost our confidence. Always feel God is with you. When you are treating selflessly, God's help will be with you and your patients will survive. So please, sometimes we have to think out of the box. And I have told these both incidents that low saturation is not the cause to worry for the doctor at least.
Dr. Wali, that's why we say the clinical correlation is very, very important. Here, the role of the clinician comes.
Yes.
The clinician role is very, very important because they are not dependent on the number of the platelet, but they will correlate clinically. That is very important. That is the role of the clinician. We were not dependent on the investigation in your era, I think.
Because our teachers have taught us clinical medicine. They were
Yes,
also not.
we did
We
all the
had
tests in the side by lab, urine
as
test
we
and platelet
as
count.
as
We
a
did it.
student, sir,
Yeah.
as a student in 1974, 73, third year, fourth year, final years, the biggest test in our hospital was a screening test. That was the last word. There was no MRI, there was no CT
Yeah, yeah.
scans, there were no ultrasounds. So
We
you
have to
have to
believe
do
on that.
clinical judgment. I think if this message goes from this webinar, it would be very important that clinical medicine is supreme. Please do not
Yes,
ignore clinical medicine. That is what Dr. Guleria was telling everybody going for a
yes,
CT scan. People did not understand him. He
yes,
meant apply your clinical sense. When you
yes,
fail to know
definitely.
what's happening in the chest, then only get a CT scan. He has
Clinical
now not
judgment is
said
very,
that.
very important.
Yes.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for your insight, sir. My last question would be for Dr. Chhabra. Sir, natural cuticles is a fast-growing consumer category worldwide. Are there any solutions available for dengue in this area?
In the so many solutions of the dengue fever to increase the platelet account and all that, but prevention is better than cure. There is no treatment except the rest, fluid balance, and the hemocrits are very important in the mainstay of the dengue. If there is a medicine to increase the platelet, one we should, if it is a trial, after the clinical trial, they should be given. As in the COVID-19, we are giving so many things. So even in the research or under pipeline, we have to give. If drugs or any empathy, if there is a clinical trial, if it is approved by the authority, then that should be given to increase the platelet count.
Absolutely, sir. Uh, I think this brings us to the end of our discussion today. Uh, I would just want to have some concluding remarks from each of our panelists, Dr. Chhabra, Dr. Kaur, and Dr. Wali. Starting with you, Dr. Chhabra.
Prevention is better than the cure for the dengue. If you prevent the things, there is no need of the doctor. So in the dengue prevention, if dengue occurs, don't panic, and you take the rest and the fluid balance. If there is a complication, then rush to the hospital and take the consultation of the doctor, educated doctor, not of the Padosi and the veg and all that. You should consult the doctor, trained doctor, or the qualified doctor. It will be my take-home message. Otherwise, you will end up with a big problem. So
Dr.
prevention is
Kaur.
better than that is the work of the public, not of the doctor. Prevention by the
Absolutely, sir.
public. No, Dr. Wali,
Absolutely,
am
sir.
I right?
Yes, sir. Agree, sir.
डॉक्टर का
Always
प्रिवेंशन
agree.
में रोल डॉक्टर का नहीं है डॉक्टर का रोल आता है ट्रीटमेंट और द ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ द कॉम्प्लिकेशन डॉक्टर परिदा एम आई राइट
Yes,
Absolutely,
sir.
sir. Totally agree.
Any take-home
बिकॉज
message that you
द
would want
पीपल आर
to?
नॉट वर्किंग विद द designated work they are working some other place That is a big problem of the health care system collapse.
Anything that you would want to add, Dr. Kaur?
Yes.
Dr. Chhabra, you probably spoke very boldly about everything. And the message I take home is that we should believe in teamwork, and for the patient, stress-free environment, be it a typhoid fever, be it
Yes.
a COVID, be it a dengue fever. You see, what kills the patient is phobia and the stress of the disease.
Yes.
I will tell you one very interesting thing which I only learned 2 days back from a psychiatrist, and it is worth learning. There was a frog and a snake, and they used to live together. And frog and snake used to prove, they wanted to prove who is powerful. So frog said it is the fear, snake said no, it is not. I will bite a person, and you just go in front of that person and jump 5 times. The person never died. And now the turn of snake comes, the frog comes, and frog bite the person, and the snake jumped in front of the person who was bitten, and the person died. So there are a lot of cases in the speech of Dr. Hegde when he talks, and he talks of one of his professors who came to one of his students, and he was 70 plus, healthy person, and the student did ECG and said, "Oh my God, this is bad," and the professor died. So these kind of things we every day see. So how much we can soothe the patient, how much we can cheerfully attend the patient, and how much we can de-stress the patient. And nowadays people are talking about mind and consciousness. So consciousness, if we try to improve and we try to educate our brain and body, and this educates each cell. I'm telling you a very big subject in a one line, that we should not think negative, we should always think positive, whether it is
Yes.
COVID, whether it is
Definitely.
dengue. So, and we should always pray for the best, and best will always happen. So with these words, I would finish this talk, and I'm grateful for Dr. Naveen Nischal and you, the voice of healthcare, Dr. Chhabra, Dr. Parinita, to be here. And I learned a lot of things from both of you, three of you, and it's a great honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Parinita, any ending remarks?
I think medicine is an art, and we can only achieve good results with if we follow transparency in our treatment. So we have to do it as a teamwork. Whatever we are doing with the patient, we have to explain the flow of our ideas to the patient and the companions, not to intimidate or make them panic, but to educate them and to train them correctly, so that we treat any and every patient as a teamwork. So this avoids unnecessary investigations, but at the same time, the patients know when to go forward for what test, what to look out for, what are the warning signs. In each disease, we just must tell them about what are the warning signs to look out for, so that they can seek the medical help correctly in the right time. With this approach, probably there is no disease that healthcare cannot take care of. Thank you so much for having me. And of course, I learned a lot with such eminent people being in the same frame. And I thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for all the panelists for the interesting and insightful discussion. And it was great interacting with such pioneers of the medical field. The take home message that I would probably give is that we just have to ensure that we keep on following all sanitation measures, maintain social distance, and keep our surroundings clean. And let us hope that all of us come out of this pandemic wiser and stronger. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to also thanks Dr. Naveen Nishal, Khushbu, and the Pinky for the
Yes.
untiring words to make this program successful. And thank you by all the co-speakers. Thank you very much, Dr. Wali, Dr.
Thank
Parinita,
you,
Dr.
sir.
Tushar. Thank you very much.
Thank you
मजा
so
आया
much.
आपके साथ में भी। Really, I enjoyed. the webinar. Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much, sir. Thank you, sir.
And all the
Thank you,
company
Dr.
who have
Wali.
given all the education grants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wali. Thank you, Dr. Chhabra. Thank you, Dr. Kaur. Thank you, Dr. Nishchal. Thank you, Khushbu. Thank you for the opportunity.